So I guess obviously my first question is I have a few questions about just the role of being a captain during these times. And so I guess my first question is just can you walk me through basically how this preseason or this first 3 weeks or so of class and on campus has worked in terms of getting everybody on the same page, getting first years involved, and kind of what the challenges of doing that were when you weren't having any sort of team in person meetings. And then I guess my second question will be how that transitioned to once you were able to be in the functional units. But we can just start with getting everybody on board. And what was that like? How did that process go?
So essentially, without having a preseason or a really competitive season or a time that the entire team can gather at the same time, takes away the organic team bonding experience. So in order to combat that, I feel like the three of us had to come up with external events to keep the team engaged with field hockey, but with each other. And I think we did a good job through the summer and the spring, and we kind of just transfer that over to the fall. Should I say some examples of what we do?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So most recently what we've been doing is it's hard for the first years to meet all of us because we have to stay within standards and we can't obviously meet as a massive group. So we've been making randomized like coffee buddies, which is a group of 5 players, and we randomize them each week. So every single week, everyone has new 5 group of people, and you can on your own like meet up, have coffee, study break, do homework, whatever you want to do. And that's just a time to just catch up with each other, or for the first years, just to know our personalities. So that's like one thing that we've done. I don't know if anyone else wants to touch on anything.
One of the things we've been keeping through, like Roxy mentioned in the spring, and we're doing now is our team times, which that's just like a classic thing that we do. But transitioning to virtual has made us like have to be a little more creative about our activities, but that's been pretty fun too.
Yeah, for team time, we've done like some Kahoots. We've done, what else have we done? Like charades.
Pictionary.
So usually those were in person, and we would like watch movies, like paint our nails, and just like stuff so that we can get together and be doing stuff outside of field hockey. And so now we've transitioned to those over Zoom once a week. We've been getting creative.
Awesome. So obviously starting on Monday, you had the ability to be kind of in the functional units and get some time out on Swan and a little bit more hands-on approach to things. Can you just tell me how I'm kind of curious the mechanics of how that's worked. Are those groups, are you in the same group? Is there kind of like different groups that, like how are those kind of organized? And then what does that kind of look like so far this week?
Yeah, so we're split up into 3 groups of like 7 or 8 each. And we lift and we practice with the same group. And theoretically, we might start switching up the groups in a few weeks if we're allowed to. But for right now, we're planning on sticking with the same groups. So you're like lift and you practice with the same group of people. And this week we only had 1 week, but coach is trying to make it a little more interesting. So we focus on different things each day. So like the first practice of the week is like more skill based. Then like the second practice is like pass and receiving. And then we did like a competition day on the 3rd day, which is really nice. So we kind of treated it like a game day. We brought out like the flash tats. I brought out my like game day headband and stuff like that. So we tried to make it seem like a little bit more normal, and we did like some competitive things between the groups. So that's like the general structure.
I think the energy is extremely high. I think everyone's just really excited to get back out on the field and kind of play with each other. We were used to in the spring and summer just doing our own individual skill work and hearing voices of encouragement through just like recordings, but it was nice to have 8 other girls out there with you, even coach just yelling at you is a nice feeling, just to be back on the field.
Yeah, I guess kind of along those same lines, it's like it seems like everyone that I've talked to so far, this is the first preseason interview I've done, but just kind of more informally with some of the coaches on our weekly staff meetings and stuff, there just seems to be like everyone's just really happy to be back, and they're kind of willing to deal with like all the precautions, all of the protocols that are in place, but it's not necessarily dampening the spirits. Like the energy seems really high on campus. So can you kind of just talk about that? Like how as a team, like have you seen that energy, and like do you think that that is something that is pretty sustained, like it as we kind of go forward into this every week and kind of adjust to the new normal for now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as our makeshift game day yesterday, it's a competition day. We essentially are competing against each functional group. And obviously we can't see the functional groups, so we're just inherently thinking like how they're going to play. But just that and playing into that competition day, like we played as if we were playing a game. And as a senior and kind of like feeling like this is my last season, like that was such a great feeling that everyone else in my functional group, which is mainly first years, like we're coming about and want to be really competitive. And I love that energy. And it feels like stems from the community as well, because everyone's just happy to be back on campus. And within the athletic department, I think it's just being grateful that we are even allowed to play in general. So just having the energy of being able to be out there is, I think, driving this whole motivation.
Awesome. So like, as far as the actual, like, can you just walk me through, like, when you talk about the functional units and the game day, is that kind of like because they're not meeting at the same time, so you're kind of having to just say like, oh, we have this benchmark that we're beating from what the last group did? Is that kind of how it works?
Coach doesn't tell us like how the previous groups do. She kind of wants you to have your own baseline and work your best. And then today we found out who won, and she like shared us a whole spreadsheet. All right, hold yourself. Okay, we get it.
Just week one.
Yeah, exactly. We'll come back at you next week, but essentially we'll find out the scores the next day.
Awesome. Well, no, yeah, it sounds like that's really exciting. It seems like there's, good vibes, and I think people are pretty excited to just kind of be back out there and have some semblance of a fall and hope for maybe something in the spring. So that's good to hear.
So it's pretty odd, I'd say, because we're really used to in the general scheme of the day, we're used to practicing like from 4 to 6 consistently, and like all of our classes revolve around that. And you're used to like going to the locker room, getting ready, like showering after, and it's like that's totally different. So I guess in terms of online versus in-person classes, I feel like usually most people have like more online than in person, like maybe 3 online, 1 in person. And then it's really weird because our practice times are like it depends on your group, but mine are either at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. So it's like, it's a different thing, and our lift times are completely different. So I think that's definitely something we're still trying to get into the groove with. Everyone's saying it's like odd, especially for me. Like if we have practice from 7 to 8, normally I'd like go to the locker room, shower, and get going, but then I have to like come back to my apartment, and it's like it's a very different feel. It's just it's completely different. Not necessarily a bad different, just different than the normal routine.
We also just have a lot more time. Like I'll find myself just walking in my like apartment, just being like, what do I do with myself? Because when you're in season, normally like your schedule is to the minute of like classes. It's even like the walk time. So with being virtual, it's kind of beneficial because you gain like the walking time. I guess Haverford's small, but you know what I mean. So it's weird, those extra minutes that you have to just like do whatever you want is nice to have, and it's also just a strange feeling because we've never really experienced college with this much free time.